Have you ever stopped to wonder where hope really comes from? I'm not talking about just wishful thinking, but that deep down resilient feeling that things can and will get better even when everything around you feels dark. Well, today, we're going to dig into one really powerful ancient perspective on that very question. Let's get into it.
So our journey starts with this beautiful metaphor from a children's book of all places. And what it's suggesting is that hope isn't always something loud or obvious. It's more like a seed, small, hidden, maybe even looking a little lifeless. But it's holding this secret, this incredible promise of life that's just waiting for the right moment to break through.
And that right there is the core idea we're going to unpack today. Hope starts as this quiet potential, this secret knowledge that no matter what things look like on the surface, something new is waiting to sprout. It's not about what you can see right now, it's all about what's still to come. Okay, so if hope is this hidden secret, how in the world do we find it? Well, it seems it's less about discovering something out there and a whole lot more about what we cultivate in here. It all starts with how you choose to see the world. This is such a powerful way to reframe it, isn't it? Hope isn't some passive feeling that just washes over us. It's an active choice. It's the lens we decide to look through. You could have the exact same set of circumstances, and they could lead to hope or to total despair, all depending on your perspective. And this choice, it's perfectly captured in this simple story of two prisoners. So picture it. They're in the same cell, behind the very same bars. One of them looks down, and all he sees is the dirt floor, the bars, the pain. But the other one, he looks up, and through those exact same bars, he sees the blue sky, a little piece of a world beyond his suffering. And in that, he finds hope. And that's the whole point, right? Where you direct your gaze can literally determine your reality. The bars were real for both of them, no doubt about it. But what they chose to focus on, the floor or the sky, that changed everything about what was going on inside them. All right, so if hope is a perspective, a way of looking up, let's see how this actually plays out in some really foundational ancient stories. Where did people in these stories look to find their hope? Well, it turns out they looked to the world around them, to nature, which they saw as being just filled with tangible promises. So you have these giant figures like Noah, who just survived a world-altering flood, or Abraham, an old man who was promised he'd be the father of nations. Where to even start to find a reason to hope in those situations? The answer is they looked for signs. For Noah, after the rain finally stopped and the waters went down, the sign was right there in the sky. A rainbow wasn't just some pretty random thing. It was a physical symbol of a divine promise. It was a reason to look up and feel certain that that kind of devastation wouldn't happen again. And Abraham? He was told to do the exact same thing, look up. In the incredible vastness of the night sky, every single star became a symbol of a future he couldn't see yet. Trying to count them wasn't about math. It was an act of cultivating hope, of physically seeing a promise that was almost too big to even wrap his head around. So you start to see the pattern, right? Hope wasn't just some abstract feeling floating around. No, it was anchored to real observable things. The rainbow in the clouds, the stars in the sky, even the sand on the seashore, which was another promise made to Abraham. These were physical signs that reminded them of a promise that was way bigger than their current situation. Now, these natural signs anchored hope in the world, but this whole idea also builds towards an even more focused and, you could say, a more powerful symbol. Within the Christian tradition, one specific symbol came to represent the ultimate promise of all. The Apostle Paul points to something that, on the surface, looks like the complete opposite of hope. He points to the cross, a Roman tool of execution, a symbol of suffering and death. And he says, look, to an outsider, this whole idea must seem like absolute foolishness. But just like with the prisoners, it all comes down to perspective. So when you look at it through the lens of faith, this symbol of what looks like ultimate despair is totally transformed into the ultimate symbol of hope. It's not seen as an ending, but as the very centerpiece of a promise of salvation and unconditional love. It's that prisoner looking right at the bars and seeing a path to freedom. So this all leads to a really critical question. What happens when the sky is starless, when there's no rainbow, when every visible symbol of hope seems to have been completely wiped out? What do you do when you're in total darkness? Really try to imagine a situation of absolute rock-bottom despair. We're not just talking about a personal struggle here. We're talking about the collapse of an entire nation, the loss of everything that gives a people its identity, its future, its hope. This was the historical reality for the people of Israel during what's known as the Babylonian exile. Their nation was conquered. Their sacred temple, the very heart of their world, was destroyed, leveled. The people were rounded up and forcibly exiled from their homeland. I mean, by every single visible metric, hope wasn't just lost, it was extinguished. And right into that crushing, deafening silence, the prophet Isaiah speaks. But he doesn't point to a sign that's already there. No, he speaks about a future one. He calls for the heavens to rain down something new and for the earth itself to crack open and let salvation sprout up from the ground. And this is the most incredible part of the whole idea. What Isaiah was seeing was a hope that doesn't depend on external signs at all. It can come directly from an unseen source, sprouting right out of the ground of despair itself. It's a hope that's created basically out of nothing, at the very moment when all other reasons for hope have vanished. So, let's bring all this together. We started with a tiny, hidden seed. We journeyed through perspective, through promises written in the sky, and even into profound darkness. So what does this journey teach us about how true, resilient hope actually grows?
Well, the journey of hope really does look just like a growing seed. It starts as that hidden secret, that tiny possibility. Then we nurture it with our perspective, by making the choice to look up. It grows stronger as we anchor it to promises and symbols we find around us. And maybe most powerfully of all, we learn that it can sprout even in total darkness, because its source is deeper than our circumstances. And that is how a tiny hidden seed of hope eventually grows and bears fruit in our lives.
Which, of course, brings us to the final and most important question. Looking at your own life, your own challenges, your own patches of dark soil, what hidden seeds of hope might be there, right now, just waiting for their time to sprout?